Welcome to Industries Live. It is Tuesday again, and we stream live every other Tuesday. And this Tuesday, we are going to focus on gaming. And I am super excited because I get to have a new co-host today. And I should say, before I turn it over to my new co-host, that I lead the partner solutions architects for several different industries. So I lead our financial services, our healthcare and life sciences, our telecommunications, and our media, entertainment, games, and sports partner solutions architects, which is a really great span of industries. So you get to see me every other Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific time. But today we are going to focus on gaming, and I'm going to throw it over to you, Patrick, to introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you. Hi, everyone. So my name is Patrick Palmer. I'm a principal solution architect focused on games and AI ML at AWS. So my job is really to kind of help game partners and customers kind of build value by going to the cloud and enabling like cutting edge visual technologies. And so, like, I guess a fun fact for me, something about myself is I've been like a gamer since, a kid. I've put many a quarter into like a joust game and playing Infocom. But I think these days now I'm playing like Disco Elysium and, Horizon Zero Dawn.
That is fantastic. And that is actually the best question for all of the viewers that are joining in. My favorite part of hosting these shows is actually seeing all of the locations people are joining us from. So drop in the comments section where it is you're joining us from and what your favorite game is, because I think that'll be really interesting for us to be calling out throughout the show. I will try to call out the farthest distance that I can see as you're streaming comments in. I'm from Canada, so I'm going to try to find somebody in Newfoundland that's joining in here. So please drop it in. Enjoy the interaction that we'll have in the chat throughout the whole stream. And our first one is from Chile. So awesome. I'm super excited to see that starting up. So with that, Patrick, let's bring our guests in today so that we can learn a little bit more about what we are going to be discussing. Great. Awesome. I love it. So both of you too, Štěpán, Jan, I'd love for you to introduce yourselves. Maybe let's kick it off with Jan.
Yeah, hi. My name is Jan. Actually, I'm CTO of Remāngu. And what is Remāngu? That's a studio in the cloud. And this is what we will be talking about during this session. Some fun facts about me. So what would I just tell you? I'm not drone racer. Actually, I race like the FPV drones for my childhood, actually. And I also built a lot of them. But me and the games. Actually, I spent like 15 years in the army. I started my career in the army, and I was building like systems for Air Force, especially systems that solved like a very known problem in the Air Force and in the battlefields, which is like to put together something which is called common operational picture. So normally you take data from the sensors, you need to visualize them on the virtual battlefield and then feed it back, for example, to the boards of helicopters and other forces. And you might know that this is not a game, maybe like the real life game, but it is like actually very close to game because you have a lot of visualization, simulations, physics there, and things like this. And once I just decided to leave the army, I continued in this journey, but currently in the actual gaming. Because I'm not like a game developer by itself, we decided to focus more on game technologies, and together with Štěpán, we are putting very interesting things together. Štěpy, would you talk about yourself and things like this?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting us here. So my name is Štěpán Kaiser. I'm CEO of Remāngu. And okay, where to start with my introduction? So I'm actually also not a game developer, so, well, what we are doing here, right? But I think what connects me mostly with Jan is that we both really like to work with the customers and we really like to solve the problems. And this is something that actually was always connected with all my like past jobs, past careers, that I was always very focused on actually understanding customers and understanding what they are doing, what their problems are, and how to help them. So actually, I started my tech career with maps technologies. So I studied geoinformatics because I was curious how the GPS system works. And from that, quite curiously, I started to work with Google Maps solutions, and I was helping customers to use the Google Maps for their applications. Then it was cloud from Maps with closed, and in the past job, I met Jan, and with him we started working on this Remāngu game studio in the cloud proposition. And yeah, let's discuss what it is today.
Which I think is fascinating. I think we've all traversed different careers to get to where we are right now. And it's fun, all of the knowledge that you pick up along the way. And I think it helps us also work backwards from what a customer is experiencing, because we've been customers in different industries before we are doing what we're currently focused on, which I think brings a lot of strengths to it. I do have to shout out that we do have people joining from India, Poland, Colombia. Still looking for my furthest distance here, people. So let's keep going. Put out where it is that you're joining us from. We'd love to hear from more. Let's start with the simplest question. Tell us what Remāngu does.
Okay, I can start. Jan can continue. By the way, I'm joining from Estonia. If anyone from Estonia in the chat.
Awesome, great.
So I will start with saying when the Remāngu started. So we started Remāngu let's say at the end of the COVID times, and we were actually solving we are working in a cloud company, delivering different cloud solutions using AWS technologies, and we have been approached by one studio who is providing animation services to the AAA studios. And because there was a COVID, there was lockdown, they had a problem how to connect with the AAA studio to whom they wanted to deliver their animation services. And it's guys, I don't know, cloud technologies, is there something we can do about it? Is there some way how actually you can solve it? And that was the first time when we hear this idea of a studio in a cloud concept, actually. So how to move the whole game production and game development from the physical place to virtual space to the cloud. And maybe Jan, you can continue here, how it evolves, and I can again
Yeah, actually, it was really interesting story because nobody just did it before, I would say, to put not only the virtual teams together with the AAAs, but run it completely. I mean, completely all the production in the cloud. And we succeeded. And actually, because we set everything, including the custom game engine running in the cloud, and the artists were able to deliver their high quality work for AAA. We actually decided, or we asked ourselves a question. So if there is one studio we were able to help with, there must be definitely more of them. And we started our exploring because, as Štěpán said, we are highly focused on customer development way of working. And actually, we found out that, yeah, there are definitely more of them. So we ran the dozens of projects in this project way. And then we have decided to build up the Remāngu like a SaaS platform.
And I think that makes an absolute ton of sense, because we also talk about, we talk often about working backwards from the customer, but in your case, you actually started your entire product development lifecycle right from the customer and actually said, okay, we've done this a few times. What's the best practices? How can we keep getting it easier and easier and easier so there's no friction to the actual creative process? And I'm a sucker for anything technical and an actual demo. So can we actually see the studio in the cloud that you've built?
For sure. Yeah. So if you can share it, you can see.
Oh, yep, here it comes.
Yeah, actually, I will comment. What you'll see here is like the recording because we have limited time. Normally, it works that you subscribe online to the cloud platform where you select your region you work from. For example, in Oregon or whatsoever, we support all regions of AWS. Then you can decide to run all your own workplace. We call it like the workplace, which is virtual machine in the cloud. Like the remote desktop with fine-tuned streaming protocol. You can set like many parameters here, and you can actually connect to your desktop. Once you are connected, you have all available, like pre-installed from templates. You have connection to the localized Perforce. You have like pre-installed Unreal Engine, so you can immediately jump into the work, and you don't need to, let's say, install anything. Imagine that you are like the new, let's say, employee or new remote worker or new artist to the studio. They invite you and you can immediately start working without like waiting for a new computer. Actually, what you see here, it was like something different at the end of the week.
You were showing us how to also build from scratch.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. So what you're actually being able to say is, hey, how can I create a virtual workstation in the easiest possible way so that a game developer can be essentially not having to know all that kind of undifferentiated heavy lifting, all that stuff underneath the hood. You figured out how to say, okay, that's great that the cloud's under here, but let's make that as seamless as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Because normally, if you'd like to set it up in the cloud by yourself, you can definitely do it. But you need to understand all the compute, networking, storage, databases as well, and you need to configure it. It takes hours or even like days to get it and to set it up properly. With Remāngu, you can have it actually in one click, in just 1 minute. Your prepared workplace or virtual machine is running. But not only, because in Remāngu there is not just like the workplace, I mean like the remote desktop, but you also have like pre-configured Perforce, which can act as your, let's say, version control system from many different scenarios. It can be like the master server with forwarding replica, or if you have already the Perforce, it can be connected as a proxy or edge. And actually, we have a couple of new features as well in Remāngu.
And so to add to that, so something that's always kind of this question for customers is, what is the security, right? Like, is my data protected, and how do I know that? And that's always kind of been a little bit of a hindrance, right? And so going with like Remāngu, right, you're bringing in those best practices of security without having people to worry about it. And so what are the other types of things that customers have been a hindrance that you've kind of helped them overcome?
Yeah, so like there are, I would say, like 3 main aspects why we typically see customers moving their studio or their game production to the cloud. You mentioned the first one, the security. Actually, very often it's even impossible to work on some AAA project without some part of the cloud production, because like having your data stored somewhere on the computer, somewhere where you don't know that, it's something you don't want to do that, because you are working on a game, I don't know, 5 years, and the data or the actual game assets is the most valuable that you have in the company. It's like literally everything you have. But the next use case is, for example, connecting new people remotely, because typically what we see is that when you are onboarding a new talent remotely, it can be a process easily for like a month. And it consists of, like buying the computer, install the computer, packing the computer, sending the computer abroad. You don't want to do that. It's really not like, your job if we are developing the game. And with our setup, you can like really start working on a game in, like 3 to 5 minutes. It's not even like the marketing climate. It's a fact you can like really do it that fast. And I would say the third one that we see quite often is kind of like a hybrid mode. So a lot of people are, working remotely in these days. It's become like one of the standards of working, and you simply don't want to be tied to your like physical workplace. And what we enable you is actually to, like, travel anywhere you want, and you can still have the access to those like super powerful cloud computer that can do for you the running the engine, run the builds, storing the data, etc.
That makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure that, again, based on where everybody is joining us from, they are probably loving to hear that you can do it from wherever, that you have access to be able to be creative no matter what, and not having to have that physical infrastructure having to be shipped to you, etc. So I think we have Italy, Brazil, Argentina, all kinds of different locations. So keep that up in the chat, and also let us know if you have any questions for our guests here today as well. So can you tell us a little bit more about, based on the features that you had to build for Studio in the cloud, what are some of the other things that you could give us a little bit of a tech demo peek behind the covers on? What's the next thing that customers are always asking for?
Yeah, because we have started with, let's say, getting people, getting people remotely to work on the game development projects. The next logical thing, and we actually heard it from our customers, is to actually build the game. I mean, to produce like the binaries and the actual like outputs from what you are doing. And once you build the game in the cloud, you have like the executable. The next logical step is to deploy it somewhere you can immediately play the game without like downloading, installing on your own computer. And this is what we have launched like recently. It's our playtesting solution, game build and playtesting solution, as a distribution platform, which is based on awesome AWS GameLift streams technology. So you can develop the game in the cloud, you can play the game from the cloud, you can playtest it, and if it is like in the cloud, it's securely closed there, so no leaks at all. And we have like kind of demo of our playtesting platform, so we can play it right now.
Okay, so are you going to bring it up and show us? Great, thank you.
Štěpě, would you comment, please?
Yeah, so yeah, you are playing the game already, and I did think we have here is that you can actually anytime play the game, stop the play and add a screenshots, comment, etc. But okay, let's start from the beginning. So let's say first you are like the admin and you create a playtest. You select from the builds that, by the way, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, awesome game. You select the build that you want to enable for the playtest. You set objectives and the description for the testers. You choose like which people will have access to it and for how much time. And you can also like explore details of the already done playtest. So you can watch the recordings, you can watch the comments, you can watch the screenshots that people took, etc. Yeah. And when you are actually a tester, the work for you is like super easy because you just log to the platform. You here have like the access of list of playtests that are available to you. You see what is expected from you to test, and you play the game, and easy as that. And yeah, as I said, you can anytime like comment, add emojis, add reactions, etc. That's it.
Cool. It's always like, it always makes it more real when you can actually see what that interaction would look like and being able to set up the playtest. But also it was neat to see that you could take the screenshot and annotate that as well, really simply if you're the playtester. And that was, you only have kind of the cue of what you're supposed to be able to see.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's beyond just playtesting, right? Like any creative can sit there and make comments about here's what's working or not working, right, in the story. And so it's beyond just playtesting, right? It kind of helps in the whole creative ecosystem.
Absolutely. So there are a lot of like milestone reviews happening, etc. So it's not only for the playtest itself, but for everything. But when we are mentioning the creative process, actually as we mentioned at the beginning, that we are like constantly trying to do the customer development, and that's how we are like trying to add in new features and new solutions. We started this idea of Remāngu with being focused only, or let's say almost only for the game developers. But then on the go, we realized that actually the same setup, or almost the same setup, is useful also for like movie producers, animators, VFX studios, etc. And I think it's also kind of like nice aspect to like still trying to to talk to customers and like exploring new potential use cases. And it got us to a lot of, I would say, interesting situations. And we will be probably sharing one of these, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if we have pictures to share, what we can. You know what? Because game studios are using, for example, like the Unreal Engine here. And this is something which is currently used by movie makers, virtual production or VFX studios, animation studios to produce like high quality animation movies or whatsoever. And because they are using the Unreal Engine, there are just something we are interested in, because we can use just exactly or almost the same setup with them, so we are running Unreal Engine in cloud. So it really doesn't matter if you create like the games in that or some new super cool animation full featured movie. And we have one customer. Can we share the actually the Dextry pictures?
Yeah, I can share it. So you can keep talking, and I will.
Okay, sorry for that. For example, we have one customer, Dextry Studios in Stockholm, and because they are running like very big installation of motion capture based on like the motion capture system, I would say, and they are feeding all the data into the Unreal Engine. They decided not to be just a local studio, but they decided to go like to be a little bit global. And normally, like the shooting session in this studio looks like that they have like the actors, performers, motion capture superstars, they call it. And if they work for, let's say, some production, it might be games, it might be other, let's say, movie makers. They really don't need to invite like everyone on the stage. Because what they do, they are feeding data from the motion capture system to the Unreal Engine, which is running in Remāngu. And because it is running in the cloud and it's collaborative platform, they can invite, for example, like the producers and directors remotely. And they feel like they are on the stage. And moreover, they have things like this 3-tone camera robot. Actually, this one was used on Harry Potter filmmaking. And imagine that you are a director and you'd like to, let's say, fine tune a shot, and you can remotely control this 3-tone monster to get like the proper shot of the actors who are on the scenes. We are running like the Unreal Engine in cloud. Director will connect into the remote workstation. He has like the live data there. And this is how Dextry Studios become like a global one, from just a local Stockholm facility. And we see currently more and more use cases actually in this, let's say, kind of industry. So using like the game engines, part of games, and using the power of cloud to work collaboratively on the projects.
I will, if I may, I will just add a fun or interesting fact. So, well, first of all, this is like a really nice situation for me personally when you can connect this like technology world, working with cloud, always like with a computer, things like that, actually like visiting physically the customer in their like physical studio, talking to them, like touching these all like huge robots, etc., which is really nice. But I wanted to show you one more thing. So this is actually a picture of Homer Simpson that was drawn fully by this like 3 tons robot that we were showing on these previous pictures. And it's to demonstrate the precision, how this monster is actually capable to work or to operate. This is like, I don't know, it's like millimeter or maybe not even, so it's like really, really small and very precise. So,
Yeah, and actually the robot moves like the 50 kilometers per hour. So you have to be aware while, let's say, moving on the stage as well. So.
That is really very cool and pretty unique and incredibly tiny. Super interesting. Patrick, I have one question that's come into the chat that I'm hoping that you can answer.
Sure.
And that is, student that's joining, they're earning their AWS for Games badge. They're interested in understanding AWS Game Lift. They're already doing courses on that. Can you tell them a little bit about why we feature partners and how partners help achieve a customer's end goal?
Sure. So when you're working with AWS, a lot of it is like taking Legos and putting it together. But bringing our partners in brings in the best of breed tools and all of your creative tools that all of your artists are used to, right? You know, these pipelines have been in place for many years. And so you're used to those workflows and those tool sets. And so you want to, by coming to the cloud, you don't want to have it be like completely new. You want to use the tools you're used to. So you partner, you know, you work with these partners to kind of create, a visual ecosystem that you're used to and that the pipelines adapt to. And so like Remāngu is making it so that they're taking a lot of like what is, what feels like patchwork and really making it a comprehensive strategy, right? Where it's a whole end-to-end game development workflow. And so that's why we bring in these partners who are like domain experts and who can make these comprehensive solutions.
That is a terrific answer. And Remāngu, now I'm going to toss the same question to you of, as say a student or somebody that is new in the industry is looking to learn more about your solution, is there a certain spot that you would point them that has free training resources or YouTube videos that you think are the best things for a student to go after?
So we actually just came from GDC, where we recorded some like demo videos of our platform, like pretty detailed ones. So you can find us on YouTube. Remāngu, it should find it. Actually, Remāngu Cloud. That's the handle.
Perfect.
Or just let us know. That would be the best. Connect with us on LinkedIn. Shoot us the email. Yeah, here. We are actually happy to talk to everybody. So we don't have honestly any like super detailed, like learning model, etc. We are still pretty small to have that, but we are happy to talk to everybody. So if you have some ideas, if you want to test our platform, we have a lot of like free programs, etc. So just let us know.
Awesome. So we're at our last minute with you. So I apologize. I took a question there that took up a lot of time, but could you give us a 30-second recap of what we should be taking away from the conversation, Studio in the Cloud, how we can be thinking about that, and who you want to hear from afterwards?
Yeah, actually, Remāngu, Studio in the Cloud, all you need to do like the game development, even if you don't have a computer, you can have whatever crap, and you connect like the box in the cloud and you are running like the high speed. You have unlimited storage, cool networking. It's super cool to install like the Unreal Engine on that, because it is like in second, not in like 20 minutes or something like this. Write us an email and we can talk. We can demo our platform in more detail. You can test it actually for free.
Fantastic. We love it. Thank you so much for joining Patrick and I today on Industries Live. We will be back in 30 seconds, quick break, and we'll be bringing back modl.ai. So thank you very much, Stefan and Jan, for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining in today from wherever you are around the world. Please drop in the chat where you're joining us from. We have a great live audience, and the first 30 minutes that we just chatted with Remāngu was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I feel like I learned a lot about how to remove undifferentiated heavy lifting, how they work backwards from customers, all the things you typically hear from AWS. We had a chance to dive deeply into, and I love it when partners bring a demo. I am Dr. Karen Hildebrand. I am hosting Industries Live every other Tuesday from 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific time. So put it on your calendars if you've enjoyed today. And next 2 weeks from now, we'll be talking about financial services. So continue to come back and hear about different industries, because there's a lot of connective tissue between industries and ideas you can borrow from one that can be applied to another. And I think that's particularly true today of the gaming industry. So with that, I am Dr. Karen Hildebrand. I lead our partner solutions architects across a number of different industries, including financial services, healthcare and life sciences, telecommunications, media and entertainment, games, and sports. And I am joined by one of my team members. Patrick, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Patrick Palmer. I'm a principal solution architect here at AWS. I focus on games and AI ML, and I get the privilege really to have a lot of fun with my customers and partners. We talk about a lot of cutting edge technologies and how to really push the envelope, and also really make sure that we're bringing value.
That's fantastic. Okay, we're 30 minutes in. Best part of the previous 30 minutes before I bring our next guests on.
I really like that it's comprehensive solution, right? And not just a patchwork. And so by having it it gives you the ability to bring something new. Like, what are the possibilities? The fact that you can have, a number of people from across the world all experiencing like a performance session, something they hadn't really thought of. And so I really like to see that you put in these baseline technologies and then build from that.
I really like that. That's fantastic. Actually, it's a great way to say we get to the creative process faster. And I think that is exactly what our customers want, right? So I will say, keep dropping in the chat where you're from, but our first person who has dropped in that they are from the USA. So live from Palm Beach by way of Brooklyn. Curious path. I love it. So keep dropping in where you're from, any of the questions you have for our guests. And with that, let's bring Christoffer on from modl.ai.
Hello there.
Hey there, Christoffer. Do you mind introducing yourself?
Absolutely. So hello. My name's Christoffer Holmgård, one of the founders of the company called modl.ai. And I guess, super briefly about myself. I've been doing video games since 2008. So I started out as a video game developer all the way back when at this point. But then since 2011, I've worked in artificial intelligence and machine learning.
I love that. We're going to be friends. That is what I did my doctorate degree in. So I love artificial intelligence, and Patrick and I nerd out about it all the time. And it looks like we're having a little bit of tech issues. So Patrick, that just means that you and I get to chat until Christoffer is able to join back in.
Sure. So, what really interesting me for AI ML is the automation, right? Like, how can you bring and scale yourself and your team and make something bigger? And so I always find that really, really interesting to talk about.
I think that is exactly what most of our customers are looking for, is what are the ways in which they can do more, and the ways that they can improve the overall quality of what it is that they are doing as well. So those are kind of the two use cases that have immediate benefit. Christoffer, are you able to speak a little bit more to the customer benefit that we typically see?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Can you hear me again, Karen?
Yes, I can.
That's great. So yeah, I mean, coming from game development myself and everyone at modl.ai, we come originally from game development and artificial intelligence for games, right? And so when we started the company, a lot of things that we decided that we wanted to build out a model were driven by some of the needs that we had seen ourselves through 10, 15 years of game development. And it just turns out that one of those things that you end up spending a lot of time on when you're building games is testing them, or kind of interacting with them. We saw that just a second ago, where with Remāngu, they have a solution for getting into the game and playing it really easily, kind of like manually. Where we come into the process is that we say, what if you actually didn't have to spend a bunch of manual time, but you had an AI playing your game for you and testing it? Because we've just seen from our own experiences how much time we had to spend interacting with the games, and that of course takes away from development time.
And that's really cool coming from the background of being game developers yourselves. You know exactly where you enjoyed spending the time versus the time that was less fun, right? And being able to scale that across your entire game. Tell us a little bit more about how you're able to approach that.
Yeah. So, I mean, one side of it is, of course, you want to solve your own pain. But then, when we took that to market, we also were fortunate enough to see that other game developers felt the same way. So the way that we go about it is that we take game builds from game developers and we put them on our platform, which is on AWS, of course. So imagine that you get a game build, comes out to you out of your build pipeline, your automation systems, goes to us at modl.ai. And then we take that game and we start, not just one copy, but maybe 10 or 20 or 50 or even 100. And we run those at the same time. And then we're collecting data while it's running in the cloud. So that's kind of like our approach. We say, like, if you can run all of that testing in parallel, well, then, you get your results much faster than if you had to coordinate a bunch of people doing that, or you had to do it serially, or maybe you were doing automation on site in your game studio. So that's really where we see a lot of value add comes in from the cloud, right? But you can do all of this like work at the same time.
It's also really interesting, right, that like games are now getting more complex. Like players are demanding more engaging long-term content for a game, and you have to keep adding content, right? And so that, complexity creates, QA nightmares, and testing is always, feels like a struggle. And so being able to take advantage of AI to kind of augment that seems like a lot of wins. Have you seen like areas like with some of your customers where, there's areas of testing that they were able to accomplish, or feel like, back in the day when consoles came out on cartridge, that game had to be 100% in its, in QA, there could be no bugs, right? And nowadays games have, a day one patch. Have you, working with your customers, have you seen like improvements using AI for this kind of QA testing?
Yeah, definitely, in multiple different ways. So I guess we actually have two stories that might sort of like show this from two different sides of the industry. So one is from a relatively small studio that had to ship a lot of content, and the other one is from a super large studio that just keeps bringing out content all the time. So if we take the first one, like from the little studio or the smaller studio, kind of like a mid-sized indie game studio. So this is a game that we supported for a year and a half. And if we share my screen, I can just show you a couple of videos for that game. But basically, what they were doing out of this game studio was that they were shipping a twin-stick looter shooter, which is like this big environment where you big maps and everything, where 4 people can play together, and you have to move around like this map, fighting enemies and things like that. So what we did for them was that we put in our AI agents, our bots, into the game so that they would play it. This was a team of 40 people, and they were shipping 100 levels with 3 variations of each. So that means they were building out 300 levels at the same time, and they had like 1 QA person to test this, right? So the only way that you can really address that with a small team is to run things in parallel and actually, build out these automated testing solutions. So that's what we did for that team. We helped them for a year and a half with our bots running in their game there, and I can actually show you what that would look like. So when they were interacting with the results of this, the game builds would go to our platform, and that's what you're seeing here, a bunch of different game builds that made it up to us, but we ran tests over. And then whenever a test would run, we would basically record a video like this. So this is running on a virtual machine in the cloud. You can see what the AI is doing. You can see, all the different errors that might kind of come up, what might be happening. If you have any code level errors, we would lift those up to folks so they could go back, the developers could figure out where that was happening in the code. We would also visualize it. So here's a map of one of the levels. And if you then click on this map, the developers would be able to see, okay, where did the bot actually go? What part of the level did we visit? You can even see that there's some sort of like cheat going on here, kind of like a speedrun hack or something, because you're suddenly just like teleporting from one side to the other. But I think the thing that actually ended up being most important for this team was that whenever this was running, we would also characterize the performance out of this. And they were having issues kind of like just getting, making sure that the game would run smoothly on any kind of computer, right? So whenever we would do these tests with all these different levels, we would also characterize it in performance, and they would then use that to make sure that they were hitting the targets so that that they could serve, their customers, which are the players in the end, right? And make sure that that it would run super smoothly on computers out there. So that's one example where, because I think, the expectations from the player base doesn't change just because you're a small studio. Everybody's looking for, you mentioned Patrick, right? It's, yes, you can do a day one patch, but games are really just, assessed on the quality these days. So even if you're a small team, you gotta be able to compete with the big ones in terms of quality.
Yeah, and with that, right, like with mobile, there's so many different platforms for like Android, right? Like being able to test all of them is, it's important, right? Because you want, your game to go out there and be able to hit the frame rates that are required. But being able to test all of them in all the different configurations available, that's really hard to do.
That's exactly right. And so that's sort of like on the other side of the fence from some of our larger mobile customers. We work with a number of mid-sized and large mobile publishers in modl.ai. And what we've seen consistently there is that, even if you're running, a world-class game, one of the biggest titles out there, these titles will have to put out new content updates maybe every week, maybe every 2 weeks. And even if you're running that with a team of, maybe 40 people full-time who are just like spending all their time testing that game, you can't cover all the content that you're putting out. Many games, even of that scope, will only be 50% tested whenever they release an update because there's just like not enough time to do it manually. And that's obviously where we come in with this solution as well. Now I showed you what it looks like for an action game. But what we've been doing recently for mobile games is that we've been taking an approach where the kind of bots that you saw playing the game before, we've been taking the same approach just for mobile games instead and 2D interaction. And now we just had a Unity crash here. That's always great. Let me just get that up again.
That's what QA is for. That's what QA is for.
That's why you need testing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just give me a second while I get that back up. But what we do in those kinds of engagements is that again, we'll connect to the studio, so they have their own build pipelines in the cloud, and then whenever they do a build for PC, but also for Android or for iOS, that makes it over to us, and we have our bots then operate and interact with the game whenever one of these new builds come up. So you wouldn't use it in the Unity editor like I'm doing now. I just have it set up this way so that I can press play and hopefully show you how it actually operates. The game over here. Yeah, there we go. Now things are happening. That's better. So you can kind of like imagine how you'll have this AI agent that's automatically stepping through, 20 different copies on this on all sorts of different devices with different formats, screen layouts, things like that. Now, when we do that, what we also do is we build a little internal kind of like representation, or this is a tree graph of the UI. So it's a different way of like representing the UI, right? And every time we're clicking on a button here or we're interacting with something in the game, we're adding it into this list. And what that allows us to do is to keep track of how much of the game have we seen, and basically try to get to 100%. That's what the bot is trying to do here. It's trying to visit every little part of the game, make sure that it's tested everything, make sure that it's clicked everything and interacted with anything that's available to it. And again, you wanna imagine that you have a bunch of these running at the same time, and that they're all going through like this flow. So it's kind of like a very fire and forget approach to QA. You just like put the bots in there once, and then going forward, whenever you have a new build, it gets tested automatically. Now, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna ask you is that AI technology is changing really quickly. So what are you seeing that your like AI bot QA technologies, like what is it good at now? Like, you're like, yes, we can get 100% coverage for these types of problems, and these are the areas that are kind of where we're headed in the future.
Yeah, so I think getting to see all the game and getting to 100% coverage, that's useful in itself, of course, because then we can just try and put the game through its paces and stress test everything. But the other thing that we're seeing is important is that you also need to address the analysis step of this. So it's not enough that we can just like play the game. That's interesting, but that generates a bunch of data that somebody still needs to, engage with or figure out like what the next step is. So what we've taken to together with some of our customers recently is that we've taken that bot that I showed you just a second ago, and then we've started also adding on an analysis part to the data set that it produces. And unfortunately, I can't show you from one of the live customers that we have, but we did do a little demo here from a game that we put together for this for things that we found on the Unity Asset Store. So you can get an example of it. So if you or an idea of like how it works. So if you imagine that bot playing through the game that I showed you just a second ago, and here we have another video recording of a bot stepping through. This could be your typical iPad game, or it could be a mobile game. You can see how it's like clicking around the interface, how it's going to every part, like going for that coverage that we talked about a second ago. Now, one of the things that we figured out or found is that this video in itself is pretty valuable, because this is the documentation of all the different steps that you went through. And if we take that video and then find the most interesting parts of it, it becomes a great target for an application of generative AI. So what we've started to do with that is that we take these like frames that we find in the video, and then we send them off to AI models in the cloud also, of course, and then ask the model to basically have a look at this and tell us if you're seeing anything that's like suspicious, anything that you think might be of interest to a human QA person.
That is super fascinating. So you've given us a couple of like different data points of how much more of the game is actually getting tested before it launches, how much more or how much quicker you're able to actually achieve that, and then a way that GenAI can be applied. It feels like you already have a lot of working backwards from customers. Maybe I want to double down on Patrick's question here of like, it looks like you are constantly evolving based on what customers are asking for you. Is there something that you're really excited about that's coming next that you can give us a little tease on?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you're totally right. Many of our features have been co-developed with the customers that we have. So we always look at our roadmap up against like, how can we create more value? What are your most pressing concerns or issues in your workflow or process, right? So a couple of things that we're working on that we're really excited about is that, as you can see here in this like video reporting system, we're finding like different issues and things like that. You can also tell the system with feedback whether this is a valid bug or not. So we have kind of like this idea, okay, the AI says, I think we're missing some artwork here. There's something called the Bay card. And open up here, we can say, okay, that's actually true. So what you can do then as a user is that you can feedback the information, whether this is true or not, and then the system learns from it. And so we've started to do that, but then specializing that into different areas of QA flows. So not just saying like generically, is there kind of like an issue here, but saying like, oh, can you help me find localization issues? Or can you help me find graphical issues? Like things like that, where the user gains more control over what the AI system does, because we're providing input and training it.
Super cool. So you're using reinforcement learning. You still have human in the loop. I'm curious, are you using some agents to actually interrogate its own results here as well? So it's fully automated?
Not yet, but that's a place we'd love to go. I think that's a fantastic idea. So obviously, you could take this and then summarize across all the different results. You could ask an agent to, if it had access to your code base, maybe even go have a look. I mean, not tomorrow, maybe not like this year, but eventually we'd like to get to a place where what you get out of this is a pull request for your code repository, right?
Right. It's also important, like with a lot of these systems, you're going to run into very similar issues, right? And so you want it so that all, similar problems all kind of get clustered together and kind of reported together. So if you're looking at patterns, but also not overloading the user by having 300, issues that are all really just one bug.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think summarizing and aggregating is super important. And I think also, being able to learn across games is super valuable as well. So that's one of the benefits that you get when you serve multiple customers, is that you get to see, examples from different kinds of games. So the next game coming in can then benefit from some of it potentially as well. There are things to consider there in terms of like, data sharing, and sometimes you'll have to keep data separate for individual customers. Sometimes you'll be allowed to use it across. But I think the more we'll be able to use data across the games industry from different examples, the more will be, it'll be kind of like a rising tide that lifts all boats. So we definitely hope in modl.ai that this is something that the games industry will remain open to going forward.
So it's interesting, right? You're creating bots that play the game. Now, does it help, like if you were going to do QA testing for multiplayer? It kind of seems like there's an overlap there where you have bots who can play the game, but at the same time, you also want to test multi-user, and playing. So is there a way that can work together?
Yeah, so we've done that for certain titles already. So what you do there is that you would start, not just like one copy of the game client, but maybe you start multiple, and then you have the bots interact up against the multiplayer server as well. What we found there is that you typically need more kind of like human-like interaction with the game for that to be really valuable. So yeah, I mean, you can definitely, with basic interaction, you can do things like load testing, stress testing, different kinds of performance testing. And then if you want to understand the game as such, then you need the bots to actually play the game more like a human player. That's something that we've done with imitation learning in the past. We've just found that these solutions take a little more work and are a little less generic still than many of these like QA applications.
All right, so we have a lot of people joining from all over the world. What is the best thing that they could do as a next step? They're interested. They're like, hey, this is a really cool partner. I've never heard about it. Thank you, AWS, for bringing it on. Thank you, Patrick, for asking hard questions. Christoffer, you've showed a great demo. Are there other things that you're like, hey, if you're joining from, let's see, South India right now, what would be the next step that they would be doing in order to be able to actually leverage what you've built as a platform if they're a game developer? How can they test?
So the way that we work right now is reach out to us on sales at modl.ai and send us an email or go to our website and same URL, of course, and fill out a form. And we'd love to talk to teams who are looking to get into this kind of automation. And I would say, wherever you are in the game development process, no matter how long you are, how far you are along your roadmap, it's never too soon to start thinking about the testing aspect, because once your game does scale, you'd wish you had it in place already. That's always how it goes in the games industry. So please, reach out to us there, and we're always happy to take a look, evaluate if the game is a fit, or even just comment on AI and testing practices and strategies.
Super cool. And Patrick, I'm going to ask you the same question, but from a different person who has put it in the chat here. All right, we're talking about partners. There's also AWS services. Tell me again a little bit of like, how do we work as AWS in the games area and with partners to help meet what customers are asking for?
Yeah, so AWS has been working in AI for quite a long time, and so we have a lot of services and expertise, right? And again, building from the Legos, you can start from, training your models all the way up to kind of managed services. So what's really nice with something like Bedrock is that maybe you only need these large language models for some of your processing that you do offline, right? And so you can take advantage of that. You pay for what you use when you use it, and you don't pay any additional, right? And so that's really nice. But also, there's a lot of kind of hybrid work being done in games where we're looking at bringing some models on device, but it's also going to be working with some models in the cloud, right? And so you have that entire like ecosystem that you can put together your strategy for how you're going to work with these technologies. And so working with like modl.ai, they take these technologies and make something bigger and better. And that's what we get a lot of these partners who in the AI space really are bringing their expertise that they've been working on for, for 8-9 years, right? They've been in this space, and they've really created some unique technologies. And then by being a partner on AWS, right, you get to kind of bring them in like another Lego piece into your whole story, right, and your whole strategy, right? You're going to take each one of these partners. It's not going to be one partner that builds everything. You're going to take and work with like 7 or 8 or 9 partners to kind of create your entire pipeline. And so, it's a really, really interesting space that's, that is really cutting edge. And you're every day, every week, you're seeing something that is really exciting, and that you're like, wow, I never really thought of that. Oh, that's really pushing the button. And so it's a great place to be.
That's super cool. And Christoffer, I have to say, I had a favorite moment in this whole conversation of actually seeing the mapping of where the bot was going and actually the layout of it. That was my favorite part, because in my head, that completely tracked into, I started my career in retail, and we used to do planogram layouts and figuring out where people were moving through a store. We do that still in hospital systems to understand patient movement. But I had to say, I'd never thought about it from an actual bot playing a game. So you blew my mind. That was awesome. Christoffer, you have a minute of, I feel like I'm doing the Hot Wings episode. Tell us about what you want everybody that's watching here to bring home with them. And maybe next time, Patrick, if you're co-hosting with me again, we have to do like some sort of vegan wing at the end, and we have to eat the spiciest version. But Christoffer.
Cauliflower.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Well, I mean, the intersection of games, AI, and cloud is a super fascinating space, and you're getting all of these like synergistic interactions between them. I think we're only going to see games get bigger and made more quickly, having more content. Obviously, we want to be part of like enabling that through automated QA. But I just want to tell everyone who's watching and who's interested, this is a perfect time to get started within all those 3 domains, because so many interesting things are being enabled in games, AI, and tech right now. So thanks.
Appreciate it. Patrick, last 30 seconds before we do our outro here.
I'm really excited about how, like, once you get beyond just these kind of basic technologies and what AI brings, you start to really kind of create a creative space to work in, right, and really be able to push. So that fusion of art and storytelling, right? Games has always been that kind of marriage, like equal partners. And so AI kind of brings this to another player into that orchestration. So I'm really excited about where we're going.
Well, that brings us to the end of Industries Live for another Tuesday. We are live every other Tuesday with different industries. So please join us from 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific time. I think our furthest joiner just dropped in from Japan. So exciting to have so many people around the world joining us to talk about games today. Thank you, Christoffer, for your time. Thank you, Patrick, for co-hosting with me today. And we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.